Welcome to the Wedco podcast, your ultimate guide to the wedding world. Whether you're a bride, groom, or wedding vendor, this is the place to be. Join us as we dive into real stories, expert advice, and behind-the-scenes insights to help you plan the perfect day. So grab a seat and let's celebrate love, connection, and creativity together. Before we get into this episode, I'd love to ask you a super quick and easy favor. If you're enjoying the Wedco podcast, please hit that follow button on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. It might seem small, but it makes a huge difference in helping the podcast grow and means I can keep bringing on amazing vendors to share their insights with you. Thank you so much for your support. It truly means the world. Hello and welcome to the Wedco podcast. Today I've got Cody from the Vintage Barco on the couch with me. Thank you so much for coming on, mate.
No, thank you very much for having me.
It's like when I've seen you guys around like popping up like crazy lately. And every time I see one of your bars, I just like, it just looks so cozy and so at home. So I'm like, I definitely have to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Usually I'll kind of start with a little bit of the backstory, I guess, behind the brand and, you know, how you got into weddings and how long ago.
Yep. So 5 years now, or just over 5 years. It was actually during COVID. I'd always been in hospitality. In Townsville, we had, I think 3 weeks of closure during COVID, and I was at home and I thought to myself, oh my God, I'm never going to have a job. What am I going to do? And my ADHD brain was like sitting there thinking, what could I do, during this time because I was bored. And I literally was like, how cool would it be to build bars and have like a pop-up bar in someone's backyard for an event? It was never weddings were never a big focus. It was just like, oh, how cool would this be? And then I kind of went down that rabbit warren of, oh, how cool would it be to have a vintage caravan that was a mobile bar? So next minute I'm on Gumtree. I found a vintage caravan in Melbourne of all places.
You can't go there for 3 years.
No, that's right. And I was like, how do I get this up here? Because a lot of people, weren't able to travel. And it was like country Victoria as well. And it was a coffee van down there. It was a 1950 or 1960s caravan. I couldn't view it. I was just going off with what the photos were that she had showed me, the owner. And got it brought up on the back of a truck. And that was pretty much the first time I'd seen it. It was a coffee van. And then, over the next kind of few months, we got rid of the coffee machine because that was boring and turned it into a mobile cocktail bar. Literally from the moment that we opened in Townsville or announced that we were opening, it was just, crazy amount of inquiries coming in. And we soon realized, oh, wow, there's a lot of weddings that want us. So that kind of then just moved from being a much bigger focus from doing, a backyard event to doing weddings and those different things.
And then like, especially the amount of inquiries come through and you're like, oh, cool. And you can kind of plan out the year as well. You're like, we're going to need some more, vans.
Yeah. So it was just start off with that. And then Alex, who's the other half of the Vintage Barco, he's kind of the handy, builder type person. So then I was like, in Pinterest, and I was like, how cool would this pop-up bar be? And how cool would this pop-up bar be? So then we just kind of started building more bars from that. To then, we knew that the caravan wouldn't be able to get into a lot of locations. So we built smaller bars, different colored bars.
Yeah. Well, it seems like, before we came on, I was like, okay, I've got to do some more research. And I was looking at the list of bars. Man, there's a lot of different bar options there. But I feel like you kind of need it these days with like all the different styles of weddings and styles of, I guess, wedding venues as well to kind of tie in with those venues.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we'll often get requests for, hey, can you guys do, have a black bar or, do you have a red bar or anything like that? So we kind of had to build our bars to be able to adapt with that. We do a lot of corporate events where they want to do self-branding and those bits and pieces on there. So we kind of built our bars that it's not more so our branding on them. We have very minimal branding on majority of our bars, and it's more about it will just kind of fit into anyone's day. It will just fit in nicely. And, depending the flowers and the theming and the style that they have, they'll be able to put that into the bar.
So is that something like prior to a wedding, like say a florist or a stylist will kind of know that one of your bars is going to be there, and so they'll kind of plan for styling up, the bar as well?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of the brides will reach out to us and say, hey, we want the bar to be a feature of our day. You know, we want to do flowers and we want to do this, and we just let them go wild. You know, it makes our content look good too. So yeah, they'll, you know, they can do what they like, really.
Well, every time I see like one of the caravans there as well, it is such a big focal point, and you have so many people just hanging out at the bar as well. And like with weddings now, you know, it is such a big, like entertaining, you guess. And I guess you're kind of hitting like two birds, one stone, where you got these beautiful cocktails and drinks that you're providing, but then also like another focal point where I guess will kind of hang out and, you know, have something to do as well.
Yeah, I think people are always blown away when they arrive to a wedding and there is a pop-up bar serving cocktails. And they're not paying $22, $23 for a margarita. They're just lined up on the bar. And everyone is just always like, you know, we are the most popular part of any day. Everyone is just shocked that, you know, what do you mean I don't have to pay for this? And you guys are here for the next 5 hours serving us drinks? So yeah, like we see it a lot. And we're finding more and more people are putting a focus on the bar being a feature of their day. You know, a lot of people, like I said, they want to include the styling and all those little bits and pieces just to make it seem like it is part of the entire event.
And like I feel like a lot of styled shoots and everything you have now, it's like it's almost the prerequisite for like a bar to be there as well.
Yeah,
it's like cool. We got the stylist, we got the florist, and like the bars here. But it's such a big focal point too. It's just like another extra add-on that it's just everyone wants.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about like the difference between like the starting point and like where you are now, I guess?
Yeah. So when we started, it was literally just Alex and I, one bar. We would do one event every month. That then soon turned to a couple events a month and asking some friends to come and help us serve drinks. Then it kind of got to a point where it was every weekend we were fully booked because it was just Alex and I doing the weddings. And we kind of got to a point where we thought to ourselves, how do we go full time into this? And as much as we loved North Queensland, we loved the community of North Queensland, we couldn't just kind of expand enough to be busy enough up there. So we decided, why don't we make the big move to Southeast Queensland? And why don't I just quit my job, lease a warehouse, and hope that it all falls into place? And I can remember when we decided to do that, I've never been so scared in my life. And I was like, I just need one booking a week to cover the warehouse rent. All right. That's all I need to start off with. And we moved down here and look, we put a heap into marketing. We put a heap into, you know, networking and reaching out to venues and all those little bits and pieces. And we worked really, really hard. And I think we were about 4 weeks into being in Southeast Queensland and the bookings were just like coming in like crazy. And we're like, oh, do we have enough staff to be able to do all these events? And then we soon, you know, what started off with 3 extra staff turned to 6 extra staff to now 20 staff that work for us. And you know, this year we've got over 160 bookings booked in, which again, when we moved down here, we had 0. And you know, I think, like I said before, we've just really hustled hard, you know, and just being able to get our brand out there and, yeah.
Have either of you had businesses prior to this?
We used to actually own a photo booth business, which again was a side gig. We would get, you know, a booking a month and we were like, cool, you know, we got some more money this month. But no, never owned a business in itself. Alex had no hospitality background. He had a mining background, but I'd always been in hospitality and in management. So I kind of knew how to, you know, run a business, but never on such a big scale, I guess.
Well, the reason I'm asking is like, because like even to dump money into advertising and everything, like you're already taking this risk of, you know, like already like this much money is coming out every week for our lease for the, you know, the factory. Like that's a big gamble.
Yeah.
Like to even be able to do that and just be like, no, this is going to work.
Yeah.
You know, that's a big leap.
It was. And I just can't even explain the feeling of, oh, I really hope this works. You know, and knowing that when we were moving down here, we also were opening ourselves up to a lot more competitors. we're opening ourselves up to, but also a lot more clientele and weddings. And yeah, we'd kind of just like, you know what, if we work hard at it, it'll work. And yeah, that's what we did.
How do you find most people are finding you these days? Is it still like a big advertising campaign like through Meta and stuff? Or is there a lot kind of, I'm assuming definitely word of mouth would be huge as well?
Yeah, definitely. We've noticed word of mouth is a lot bigger. We'll kind of do a wedding or a birthday, and there's always someone there who's getting married or has an event coming up. And so, we'll kind of get a booking from a booking. Look, we definitely do push hard on Instagram advertising and Google advertising. And I think that's an important part of any business. You need to do that. But, we work really hard to also build relationships with venues. When we first moved down here, we wanted to work on those relationships with the venues that don't have a bar service that we're going to be able to fit into. So yeah, we've worked really hard on building those relationships to now where we are today, where we're the preferred bar vendor for a lot of venues that we go to, which has really helped.
And like you're providing a service for them, which is amazing. They don't have to go and do like a full bar fit out for themselves, but these are the guys we use and they're amazing and their bars fit in with our venue. And it's like they're probably doing 3 or 4 weddings every week, so it's like that's amazing that you had like the forethought to kind of think about that, because everyone's like, you got to network. But yeah, you find like once you do get in with a few venues like that, it can kind of change the whole trajectory of a business.
And we didn't want to be, we've never wanted to be those annoying salesy people, we didn't want to annoy venues and be like, pick us. And when we first thought about moving down here, we're like, how could we be different and get in front of venues? And obviously we wanted to visit the venues and check them out. And we actually sent a heap of venues PR packs that we did ourselves that had a little cocktail shaker and little cocktail recipe kit in there. And it helped, it at the end of the day, if they want to book us, they'll book us. If they want us to be part of their preferred vendors, they'll want to do that. So we thought it was important not to be like super salesy in their face, but just hey, we're here, give us a go.
But even put like that's all money as well.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of money you put out there.
Yeah.
And like, I speak to a lot of wedding photographers too. And I'll say like, they want to get in with a venue. I'm like, can you just print them out a wedding album? Like, hey guys, can I just leave this wedding album with you?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, but I don't want to spend $600. You're like, just spend the $600.
Yeah. Do you know what? It is that it does like, I think, we spent over $1,000 on those PR packs when we sent them out to those venues. And at the start, I'm like, is this just ridiculous? Is it too much money? And, you have to spend money to make money. And that was a point of difference of putting us out there and getting in front of them. And, I feel it's much the same with, I talk to a lot of wedding vendors that say, wedding open days are a waste of money, Whereas for us, I see it as a complete opposite. Like, yes, it's going to cost you a little bit of money sometimes to be able to attend these open days, but you're getting your brand and your business in front of so many people who are ready to book, So I think that's, important across the board.
I've been horrible with that in the past because like I just haven't feel like been organized and also had like a really good setup that I'm stoked with.
Yeah.
And so now like I'm speaking to Mandy from Ivy and Blue and she's like, look, I'll help you with that.
Yeah.
It's like, cool, go spend $1,000.
Yes.
And then any open day, you don't have to be worried about going to because like I've got this amazing setup. It looks awesome.
Yeah.
Just take that and put that there.
Yeah. There's also so much pressure with an open day. Like you're kind of like, does it look all right? Because in your mind, you're like, oh, this is crap.
Yeah.
And everyone else is like, wow, this is awesome. But no, like we've always found that, you might not get a booking from it. But you know what? There's going to be at a point where that person's going to remember your brand and remember your business and going to want to book you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, do you want to go back to couples a little bit here?
Yeah.
So like what would their experience be with you? So they've just, they've come through Instagram, they found you. Like, what's the experience as far as like, inquiring with you and going from there?
Yeah. So, we'll obviously inquiry will come through our website. We know that their day is a huge part of their planning process. For 12 months, nearly 2 years, And we know that they're going to have a lot of questions, right? And they're probably talking to 20 different vendors, and all of our pricing information sheets all look different. They've all got heaps of information. So we always recommend a phone call first. We also understand that every single couple's day is going to be different. Okay. So we always say that our pricing is not one size fits all. Kind of use that as a base, and then let's tailor what it is, the vibe that you want to bring to life. Let us help you do that. So, a lot of people will have, 3 pages of questions sometimes, how does it work? And, what do you mean? You just make cocktails all night and my guests drink them. And it's things like a shopping list. How much alcohol do I need to buy? So a big part of what we do is BYO weddings. So that's where the bride and groom provide the alcohol, and then we take care of everything else. So the glassware, the bar, the staff, the ice, all of those bits and pieces. But obviously when you're planning a wedding for 100 people, you're like, how much alcohol do I need to be? So we'll help with that shopping list process. And then usually kind of once they're locked in, most couples then go quiet for, 6 to 12 months. And then it's usually like 8 to 10 weeks out from their wedding day that then we're kind of back on the scene again, finalizing all those little bits and pieces. But, we're very much about making our business fit their vibe. We want to be flexible. And yeah, look, we understand that we're never going to be everyone's, first choice. And, but yeah, we just want to be a little bit different.
How does a different drinks list look throughout, like say different weddings? Do couples come to you and they be like, look, I love this cocktail, this cocktail, this cocktail, or like how does that kind of work?
Yeah, so obviously cocktails are a big part of what we do, and to have it at a wedding is awesome. I've never been to a wedding that's had a cocktail bar like ours, so but yeah, so they'll kind of come to us and they'll say, this is the list that we want to put together, and then we'll kind of give them advice. Like quite often people will go, all right, over 7 hours, I want cocktails served all night and I want espresso martinis served. And we always say to them, espresso martinis over a 7-hour period is never going to be a sessionable cocktail to drink. And whilst that would be easy for us because it means that we're not going to have to shake as many cocktails because people aren't going to have a heap of them, we want it to be a drink list where people are like, oh, wow, I can have an espresso martini for cocktail hour maybe, but let's not waste one of those options on your menu being an espresso martini. Let's focus on, a spritz based or a margarita or something that's going to be sessionable over 7 hours. Whilst there's definitely been guests that have drank an espresso martinis for 7 hours, yeah, we definitely wouldn't recommend it.
Well, yeah, something like more light and festive, like where people can kind of come back to it as well.
Yeah, and I think like the weather plays a big part in it. When it kind of the temperature starts to drop, you'll see drink menus that have mulled wine and, Negronis and, kind of more sipper style drinks. And then when it's hot, all right, margaritas are coming out, the spritzers are coming out.
Yeah. Do you even find that with venues? Like if a couple was like, hey, we're getting married at X venue, can you almost pick the type of cocktails they're going to want as well?
Yeah, 100%. Like margaritas, I don't think there's ever been an event where there hasn't been a margarita on the menu. They're just huge, and it's great. But yeah, you kind of know from the get-go what kind of style and vibe that it's going to be. We'll always send the bride and groom a cocktail menu which is like 4 or 5 pages long, and it just has a heap of different cocktails that. We'll put some advice with what are like the most popular cocktails, because some people are like, I don't know, I just want cocktails on my menu. And then, quite often we'll get custom requests. So the bride and groom have maybe dined at a restaurant and they've had a cocktail there that, means a lot to them too. So we'll kind of then, search the restaurant, find their cocktail menu, find the ingredients and try and recreate that cocktail for the bride and groom.
And so, like, how far should people be booking out your service?
Look, we definitely say 12 months. We've got bookings into 2026 and 2027 already. And we always say, you may not know what package you want or what drink menu you want, but just secure the date. Just get that date locked in. And then all the other little bits and pieces can just, come along. And, a lot of people want to start discussing drink menus and all those bits and pieces 12 months out from their wedding day. And we always say we're always more than happy to do that. But, just like wait for what's the weather going to be like? How many people are you going to have? That'll all change, what drink menu you have.
We're going to have to revisit it, 10 weeks out anyway.
Yeah.
So let's do that. When people book in their date, are they actually choosing the specific bar that they want at that time?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have multiple of most of our bars. So we've got over 10 different bars and multiple of them. So Frankie, our caravan bar, we've only got one. So that's usually the bar that goes first. Everyone kind of wants that. And then we've got multiple of the other bars. So once they book their preferred bar. And then that's kind of locked in, ready to go.
So and they're all different styles. Like, do you want to maybe outline like 3 or 4 of the different ones?
Yeah.
Because I saw some like more modern ones with like they were white and they they would kind of fit in at a more modern kind of venue. Do you want to go through a couple of different options?
Yeah. So they've all got names starting with F. So Frankie, Flow and Fern, Freya, has kind of been the theme that we've gone with. So Frankie Caravan Bar, obviously that's more suited to a certain type of vibe that you wanted to create for your big day. Then we've got Flow and Fern, which are our white wedding bars. They're 4 meters in length, so they're kind of like the grand, no branding, fit in with any themes that you're having. And then we've got Fran, which is a black bar, which we've been so surprised has started to become really popular with weddings lately, having, a feature black bar on there. And then we've got bars which have beer taps on them to be able to do tap beer.
I saw like tap cocktails.
Yeah. So you can also do tap cocktails. Look, we're not a fan of tap cocktails. A big part of what we do is we want it to be premium. So, we'll definitely we've done weddings for 200, 250 people before. And, if they're looking for quick service, then we might look to put a tap cocktail on. But a lot of the time we want to focus on, good tasting cocktails, premium ingredients, like in our margaritas, we focus on like fresh lime juice and those little bits and pieces that you just can't put in a big keg of cocktail mix. Yeah.
So when people hire you, like how many bar staff would they typically get? Like, is there, if there's 50 guests, you've got to have one. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so we always have a minimum of 2 staff on. So up to 50 would be 2 staff. If you start creeping over 50, again, it kind of depends if you've got cocktails or no cocktails, but basing it on cocktails, over 50, you'd be getting to 3 bar staff. The closer you get to 100, you're getting to 4 to 5 staff. So we really focus on that level of service. We want it to be, it's such an important part of their day. We make sure that we've always got one staff member who is just looking after the bride and groom. We see it so often where the bride and groom have these massive weddings and just by the end, they are so exhausted, they just don't get a chance to get to the bar. So one staff member is always looking after the bride and groom. So we always make sure that they've got a drink in hand. And we're kind of always looking, going, oh, they're empty. All right, let's just get another drink out to them.
That's so good because the amount of times you see the bride and groom kind of at the back of a line and like, go to the front.
Yeah.
Get to the front.
Yes.
It's
or
your
like,
day.
a lot of them feel bad that our staff are waiting on them,
Yeah.
and they're like, no, it's fine. Like, we can go to the bar. It's like, absolutely not. We're
No.
going to take care of you.
This is why we are here.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's amazing. So, like, what would a typical wedding look like for you like for you at the moment? Like I said, like the whole entertainment factor comes into it. Are you doing like a lot of bigger weddings or?
Yeah, look, I would probably say this year there definitely has been the wedding sizes are getting smaller. And I think obviously cost of living and all those bits and pieces are coming into play. Last year we had a lot of really, really big weddings, but this year kind of we've noticed that, 50 to 80 seems to be that sweet spot for a lot of weddings.
It's like just nice and intimate as well. And like I feel like your staff that you have on, they are like everyone I've met that's worked for you, like are very charismatic. They're people you want to talk to.
Yeah.
And so like when you do have these like, 50 to 80 people events, you kind of do need that as well.
Yeah.
Because people are leaning towards you.
Yeah, when we hire staff, we're not looking for the most experienced cocktail bartenders in Brisbane. We're looking for people that can have a conversation. We're looking for people who are bubbly, people who are happy, people that just want to be there. I don't think there's anything worse than, going to an event or going to a restaurant and you can just tell that the staff don't want to be there. So yeah, it's been a really big focus of ours is, we want the staff to have a conversation. We want them to ask a customer how their day's going. I want them to stress over the bride and groom and make sure that they're happy. Like that's what we want in a staff member. And the training of being able to make a perfect cocktail, like anyone can do that. But customer service and being happy and bubbly, you've kind of got to put an effort in yourself.
Like as far as what does a team in the business look like? I know you got like a lot of people working on the bars and everything like that. What does the actual core business look like at the moment?
Well, yeah, Alex and I is kind of full-time, day-to-day inquiries, washing glasses, all the fun stuff. And then we've got a team of about 6 supervisors. And they're all, experienced hospitality professionals that can run their own weddings and events. And then we've got bartenders underneath that. So on a day-to-day basis, the team would arrive at our warehouse. The vans would be packed, ready for them to head out. They would go do the event, come back to the warehouse, and then it's usually me washing the glasses and unpacking everything.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you get out on site very often now, like as far as to like the events yourself?
Every event. So I work every single weekend. I probably don't need to, but I love it. And I would much rather be out shaking cocktails than be in the office on a computer doing a quote. Like I just enjoy that hands-on side of things. But Alex and I are both in events every single weekend. So usually we'll divide and conquer. So for example, this weekend we've got 5 different events on Saturday. So I would do one, Alex would do one, the supervisors would then split off to do the other one. But I think it's important to be, to work in the business so that you can kind of see firsthand.
Do you have couples saying like, "Oh no, we want you at our event"?
Yeah, we do. We definitely do. And when Alex and I moved down to here, we very much made it. We didn't want it in Townsville. It was Cody and Alex with Vintage Barco. And when we moved down here, we didn't want it to be that because the Vintage Barco is bigger than just us. So we really, wanted to make sure that, our staff matched our vibe and, would give the same experience that Alex and I would at a wedding. And we are so extremely lucky because all of our team absolutely match our vibe and what we give out. But we'll still get bride and groom that'll say, "So you and Alex will be at our wedding?" And we usually say, one of us definitely could be, but probably not both of us. And yeah, we always want to reassure them that just because it's not us, there's still going to be someone there who is just as good. But yeah, we've got a couple of weddings coming up, which have, said, just want to make sure that it's either you or Alex, so that they're going to be there.
I've had that. I was chatting to like the guys from Avenue, Andy. That was a while ago now,
Yep.
and same thing. He does photo video, but he has like a director's like package as well,
Yep.
where it's pretty much like, okay, then I will be there. It's like it's almost getting to the point where it's like you need to have that as well.
Yeah, Alex and I often say, you go to a barber sometimes and you look at the price list and there's like a director price list. If you want like the premium person to cut your hair and. We always say, oh, maybe we need to start charging more, if they want Alex or I to be at their wedding. But no, we will always be at an event every weekend, So we always look at, we're always at the bigger ones as well. We always make sure that, if there's ones that are a little bit more complex in terms of, having cocktails in different areas and all those bits and pieces that we can kind of be there to oversee that. But yeah, we have an incredible team who definitely match the vibe that we bring to a wedding. So,
and I guess that is the whole business, isn't it? Like that is the brand. Like, yes, it is both of you, but we've created this brand and we oversee everyone. We hire everyone. We train them in this way.
Yep.
So that's what you're getting.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are scared as well. Like a lot of people will say to us, are they your staff or are they agency staff, for example? and that they're always our staff. Like our core business is always our staff. And, you know, I am like a helicopter dad when my team are at their own event and I need to make sure that they got there on time. I need to make sure that, you know, that they've set up the bar correctly and all those little bits and pieces that I stress every weekend to make sure that it's perfect. So yeah, all of our events are our staff that work them. You know, any new staff work alongside Alex and I for weeks before they would go out to work, you know, an event themselves. And we make sure that our supervisors that, you know, are looking after event, that they all know what Alex and I expect from them when they go, and they go over and above that. So,
and most of them have been in the bartender role for a while as well, and they're kind of stepping into that supervisor role.
Yeah, like we've got one supervisor that's actually in the Air Force. So Tish was in hospitality for a long time. She's now an aviation mechanic in the Air Force, working Monday to Friday. So yeah, she's been with us since we first moved down here, and she just works Saturdays for us and like loves it. I think that the big thing is like our staff. A lot of our staff are just so excited to come and work at the venues and work at the houses that we get to go to for events. And it is so different to working behind a bar, where it's literally just a wave of customers and you're just serving. Like you've got time to chat, you've got time to engage with customers. You know, there's fun, there's banter. Yeah.
That's almost having like that higher staff level as well, is like that someone is probably going to be free to do that.
Yes.
And that's what's going to make other like clients remember you as well.
Yeah.
Because like they don't want just like, yeah, I want a cocktail, here's a cocktail, and that's it. Like they're looking for that experience.
Oh, 100%. And like, you know, we often say that bartenders also can be counselors as well because, you know, everyone just wants to have a chat at the bar, you know, and it's really, really lovely. A lot of people will, you know, want to engage with the staff and like, what do you do? And, oh, you're at uni, what are you studying? And, you know, there's kind of the conversation just flows. We always say to the staff, it's really important to remember what people drink as well. So, you know, if you're engaging in a conversation with someone, just remember what they're drinking for the remainder of the night. You know, when they're walking up to the bar, oh, that they're drinking espresso martinis. Hey, I've already got an espresso martini. Like, that makes people so happy.
It really does.
Yeah.
It's like makes us feel so special. Like they see me kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you have any hints or tips for like a couple? They don't drink all that much, but they definitely want your services because they love the bars and everything like that. Any hints or tips for them?
Yeah, look, we've actually done quite a few weddings which have been no alcohol weddings as well. But I think our advice to bride and grooms or couples in general is not to try and please everyone. You know, we'll see it a lot where Auntie Cheryl only drinks Chardonnay and this one only drinks rosé. And we always say to them, like, don't stress about that, you know, focus on the drink list that you would want part of your day, you know. And if that means that they're not big drinkers and they want to see mocktails on the menu, but they're worried, oh, but, you know, such and such likes cocktails. Well, it's your day, you know, focus on what it is that you want on your menu and your day. And don't worry about trying to please so many people. There's always going to be another option for them to drink on the menu.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Auntie Cheryl can bring a bottle of rosé if she really wants to.
Yes.
What's next for the Vintage Barco?
Yeah, so further growth. So we need to expand our team a lot more. We actually franchised our business as well and kept Vintage Barco in Townsville. So really crazy. We had announced that we were leaving North Queensland. Everyone was like, what are we going to do? And Ben and Ash, which are actually wedding singers in Townsville, who we just did lots of events with. Like, obviously, the vendor community is much smaller in Townsville. And they reached out to us one day and said, can we franchise Vintage Barco and keep it in Townsville? And we were like, what? What do you mean? And yeah, we were kind of in the middle of finishing up in Townsville and then also trying to create this franchise, which we didn't have any experience with. So we ended up, long story short, franchising. So Vintage Barco is still in Townsville as well. And Ben and Ash and Adam do an incredible job up there. They've got a vintage caravan. They've got the same bars that we've got up there. So I think the future goal is looking at, you know, how do we expand Vintage Barco? We've got the brand. We've got every other little bit and piece to help make it successful for a couple. And I think if I can do it and Alex can do it, anyone could do it. So yeah, that's probably the future goal, is to see where else can we bring Vintage Barco to life.
All right, Sydney and Melbourne, watch out. All of a sudden you have to be moving down to Melbourne for like a stint.
Oh, God.
Well, that's big. Like, yeah, to be that excited and being able to move like that.
Yeah. So, and it was great because, it was important. We loved Townsville. We loved the community in Townsville, but we needed to take that next step. And we thought that meant at the time finishing up in Townsville. We never considered that, that there'd be someone that wanted to buy our business. We were like, what, really? So yeah, it's up there. Those guys do, over 50 weddings a year up there with it. And obviously being North Queensland, it's the wedding season is much smaller because of the heat and those bits and pieces. So it's we'll go back to Townsville and visit, and it'll be crazy. We'll be like driving somewhere and we'll see like the Vintage Barco van driving, and we're like, that's ours. Like, we created that. It's kind of cool and surreal.
Does expansion look like franchising out, or does it look like building the business to further out?
Probably franchising. Alex and I can't do it all. We seriously, as much as I would love to be in 100 places at once, I seriously can't. And, I think 2 years into the Vintage Barco in North Queensland, Alex and I, we were both very busy in our full-time roles, and we thought, do you know what? I think it's time to sell. And I put it on the market, and I got tire kickers come and look at it. And I remember saying to Alex, like, I don't want these people to own my business. And, I guess we cared a lot about the bride and the groom and the couples we had coming up, that we were like, I couldn't see those people taking care of it. And I thought to myself, I obviously don't want to sell it, because if I did, I wouldn't care so much, I don't think. So, I think, long-term is expanding that brand, whether that be Sydney, Melbourne, we'll see where it takes us.
That's amazing, mate.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, and then any parting words for couples at all?
No, I think, just take the time, ask questions. There is, a lot of different mobile bar vendors out there as well. Quite often we will, again, we can't do it all. And we have so many good relationships with other different mobile bar vendors in Southeast Queensland. And we're always very, we want to make sure that they've got someone incredible for their day if it's not going to be us. So, we always are keen to recommend other mobile bar vendors. So I think it's important just to, look around and ask questions.
Perfect. All right. And where can people find you?
Instagram, Facebook, website, the Vintage Barco. But very, very active across all the social channels.
Mate, Cody, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Wedco podcast. If you love this episode, don't forget to subscribe, follow, and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave a review or connect with us on social media. New episodes drop every week, so be sure to join us next time for more wedding inspiration, tips, and stories. Until then, happy planning, and we'll see you soon.